Good evening. You're watching the main news on HOY International Business Channel. I'm Chloe Feng. Here's a look at tonight's top stories. One of Hong Kong's first major public housing estates is finally earmarked for redevelopment, according to reports. Customs make the largest ever seizure of crystal meth, with the shipment worth $640 million. And Novak Djokovic achieves yet another milestone with 40 Masters titles. The iconic Chai Hong estate has finally been earmarked for redevelopment, according to reports. Housing Chief Winnie Ho would not confirm the rumor, while lawmakers urged authorities to properly resettle the thousands of households. Jenny Slow reports.
With its distinguished and user-friendly features, Chai Hong Estate in Ngau Chi Wan was awarded the city's first architectural award in 1965. The estate's colorful facade has made it a tourist attraction in recent years, but the clock is ticking for 7,400 households. As one of the oldest public housing estates in Hong Kong, the government has finally decided to redevelop the massive project, according to Ming Pao. It is believed that residents would be relocated in batches, some of whom to nearby Kowloon Bay. In his policy address last year, Chief Executive John Lee had ordered the Housing Authority to earmark one more public estate for redevelopment, on top of 10 projects which were already underway. At a Legislative Council panel meeting this afternoon, Housing Minister Winnie Ho would not confirm if Chai Hong Estate has been officially chosen. She said that even buildings are over 60 years old, it doesn't mean that they will have a higher priority for demolition.
咁當然唔係話一定係60歲嘅屋邨，我哋就必定佢係一定係優先係做嗰啲先。
Redeveloping any housing estate also depends on the condition of the structures, Ho explained. But she admitted that aging housing estates can never compare to new buildings, even if authorities spend a great deal of effort to maintain and repair them. Lawmaker Michael Tian did not object to redevelopment plans, but hoped residents can be properly relocated.
So redeveloping an estate, you need to be very careful, all right? Because people are rooted there, you know, where they work, where they go to school, all kinds of things with, you know, with the kids, all right? So during the whole redevelopment stage, they have to relocate these people elsewhere. If they move them all over Hong Kong, there's going to be a problem.
Chen insisted authorities cannot be too aggressive in setting the redevelopment timeline, saying it has to be done in phases. Janice Low, Cable News.
7.5 tons of drugs were seized by customs in the first 10 months of the year, a 41% jump year-on-year. The latest bust involves 1.1 tons of suspected crystal meth, worth $640 million in street value. Janice Yu reports.
Disguised as seashells, around 1.1 tons of suspected crystal meth arrived at Kwai Chung container terminal through a shipment of seafood from Mexico late last month. Customs raised suspicion after the 40-feet cargo container was registered under a residential apartment in Mexico. Subsequent X-ray scans revealed irregularities on 104 out of 600 bags of seashells. Ip Kwok Leung from Customs Drug Investigation Bureau noted how traffickers went great lengths to evade detection. Apart from carving the crystal meth into the shape of seashells, the blocks were also wrapped with a wax coating of abnormal colors to fool officers. With an estimated value of $640 million, this marked the biggest ever seizure of crystal meth in Hong Kong. The shipment was traced to a container yard in Sheung Shui, before eventually arriving at an industrial unit in Fo Tan, where the drugs were believed to be repackaged and distributed. 4 people, including a suspected core member of the crime syndicate, have been arrested. Customs have seized 7.5 tons of drugs in the first 10 months of the year, a 41% jump compared with the same period last year. Janice Yu, Cable News.
A group of minibus drivers plying cross-harbour routes fear they will be out of business next month when tunnel tolls increase by up to 4 times. But the government said the tolls have not been adjusted for decades, adding the new scheme will help drivers save time. Janice Yu reports.
The second and final stage of a toll adjustment scheme for 3 cross-harbour tunnels will come into force next month. Under the plan, minibuses will pay a flat $50 toll whenever and wherever they cross the harbour. The biggest losers will be operators for routes which take the cross-harbour tunnel, as they will pay 4 times more than the existing charge. The Motor Transport Workers General Union decried the steep raise, saying it would effectively put self-employed drivers out of business. Around a dozen drivers staged a petition outside the Legislative Council this morning, parking their red-top minibuses on the side of the road. Inside the chamber, Chong from the Federation of Trade Unions asked the government if the minibus toll can be slashed by half to $25, in line with taxis. I'm not saying you should increase taxi tolls as well, but shouldn't minibuses be at least priced the same as taxis for fairness? But Deputy Transport Commissioner Patrick Ho insisted $50 is a reasonable level, while new tolls at Western Harbour Crossing are even 40% cheaper. He also pointed out that minibus tolls at the Cross Harbour Tunnel have remained unchanged for 39 years. Another unionist lawmaker, Lam Chun Sing, asked if there is room to lower tolls for commercial vehicles as they are used for business purposes, unlike private cars. In response, Ho said by unifying tolls of the 3 crossings, drivers have the flexibility of choosing the fastest route according to traffic conditions and save time. Janice Yu, Cable News.
President Xi Jinping has met with Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese in Beijing. The two leaders discussed trade and security issues. According to state media, the two sides embarked on the right path of improving ties for the sake of mutual interests. Albanese became the first Australian leader to visit China in 7 years. Sino-Australian ties have been strained in recent years, marked by diplomatic disputes. Turning overseas, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinkin paid a surprise visit to Iraq as he shuttles around the Middle East in an effort to de-escalate the conflict between Israel and Hamas. The Iraqi capital of Baghdad was a surprise inclusion on Blinken's itinerary as he arrived under the cover of darkness sometime yesterday. Blinken also raised concerns about attacks on American troops and embassy staff by local militant groups with Iraq's Prime Minister Mohammed Shia al-Sudani. But the top American diplomat didn't receive a warm welcome by locals, as many protested on the streets of Baghdad. Blinken arrived shortly after a meeting with Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas in the West Bank city of Ramallah. He also called on his Arab counterparts in the Jordanian capital of Amman, hoping to stop a wider war in the region. 5 people, including 2 children, were killed in a popular tourist town in the Australian state of Victoria after a car plowed into an outdoor beer garden.
There were numerous people there, community members, visitors, many people in the proximity who selflessly came out and aided those who were dying, aided those who needed first aid, just disregarded their own safety. An incident like this that was so confronting, so chaotic and so distressing, you can't train someone for that.
The accident happened in Dalesford, roughly 110 kilometers northwest of Melbourne. Witnesses recalled a BMW sports utility vehicle mounted a curb after losing control and drove into the outdoor area of a hotel, which was packed with patrons enjoying a long weekend break. An 11-year-old boy, 2 men in their 30s, and a woman in her 40s died at the scene, while a 9-year-old girl succumbed to her injuries in hospital. 6 others were injured in the crash. Police said the 66-year-old driver has no prior convictions and returned a negative alcohol test, as officers were still investigating what really happened. South Korean stocks jumped after authorities reimposed a ban on short-selling activities. The controversial move will be in place until June next year, when general elections are expected. Similar bans were imposed in the global financial crisis in 2008, as well as the start of COVID in 2020. Retail investors who have long held out at short sellers were overjoyed. The Kospi index jumped 5.7% to close, while the Kosdaq soared 7.3%, marking their best daily session in 3.5 years. A look at the markets, the Hang Seng Index jumped over 300 points. Top 10 equity stocks: Tencent up $10, Meituan up $6.20, and Alibaba up $2. BYD Company up $8.20, Hong Kong Exchange and Clearing up $9.20, and Wuxi Bio up $2.15. Forex trading against Hong Kong dollar, the euro is at 8.41, British pound at 9.71, and Australian dollar at 5.09. Moving on to the UK market, the London FTSE is currently down nearly 1 point. And finally, onto the weather now. Overcast with sunny intervals tomorrow. Temperatures will range between 24 and 28 degrees. And that's our main news for Monday night. Join us for more news at 11. I'm Chloe Feng. Thank you for watching. Good night.